call this regular meeting to order of the Leominster Conservation Commission, October 24th, 2017. First item of business is our continued hearings. First one is pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 as amended. There will be a public hearing to consider a notice of intent by Dominic Marabello for the construction of a 30 by 30 addition to a single-family home. Some work is proposed within a wetland resource area, address 30 Day Street, map 577, lot 27A. And unfortunately, we don't have a quorum for that meeting. Two of the members that are here tonight had not participated in prior meetings for that one. So we're gonna have to continue that to our meeting on November 14th here at 6 p.m.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay, next one is pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 as amended. There will be a public meeting to consider a request for determination of applicability by Highland Manor Realty Trust regarding the determination of a potential wetland area. Address 826 West Street, map 514, lot 8.
Mr. Chairman, I sent in an email earlier to Mr. Bengrazi requesting a continuance. Whitman and Bingham Associates has located the flags. They have to plot them and get them when the plans have been requested. They've just been a little bit backed up. All the survey crews around here are pretty busy.
Okay. All right, so that public meeting will be continued again till November 14th here at 6 p.m. Okay, next we have our new public hearings. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 as amended, there will be a public hearing to consider a notice of intent by CRX Realty Trust regarding the construction of a condominium and associated parking and stormwater management within the 100-foot buffer zone of a wetland. Address 96 Exchange Street, map 111, lot 6.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the Commission. Matt Morrow again. I'm pinch hitting for the applicant's representative in away in Florida. I do believe a notice of intent was filed for the proposed development that was previously under the RDA. I had gone out, as I explained earlier, when the RDA was filed and flagged an extended wetland area that was created due to an alteration of a drainage area previously by the property owner. I don't know if the Commission's had a chance to go out and look at that flagged area.
Okay, are you gonna talk about the project at all too, or?
I don't have a map on me, actually. This guy was kind of a last minute.
Okay.
Essentially, my recollection of the project is it was a detention basin going close to the wetland with some associated parking in some of the buildings. The detention area has been formulated to meet the Massachusetts stormwater standards according to the calculations that I did review that were submitted. And recollection serves me from looking at the last set of plans, there is erosion protection that is proposed. And the expanded wetland area that had grown out since my initial delineation, I included, and they shot and put on the plans as well. And what had happened was up, if I may, up in this area right here, there was essentially a hole that was catching water. And when I originally delineated the wetland, there was no growth over here, and the wetland was confined to the wooded area. What had happened subsequently was the owner worried about his liability because it was a hole that you could barely see. It was there and it functioned, but you couldn't see it readily. He was afraid of people falling in. So what he did was he filled in the hole, and as a result, the groundwater now is coming out here, and it formed a connection to this wetland here. And you can tell the difference because you have your regular mixed deciduous bordering vegetated wetland that was originally flagged, and you have basically some aggressive herbaceous growth growing over here. It's bordered by goldenrod, and if I remember correctly, there was also a lot of Queen Anne's lace and bull thistle on the upland bush.
Discussion? Anyone have any questions, comments?
Not right now.
Did anyone have the chance to see the extended delineation?
I have seen it. I've also started reviewing the plans as well as the stormwater management report.
Okay.
We open it up to the public. Does anyone in the public want to speak on behalf of this project?
Yeah, is there a layout that I can see of this new proposal?
Could you please state your name too for the record?
Larry Cadwin, 78 Exchange Street, direct butter. Now, as far as, where is it, the layout coming here?
So this is the proposed project right here.
Yeah. This is Patel Street's here, my house. Yeah. This would be my lot right here. Okay, you're already back here. Okay, it's the trees. Now, my concern is right now, I have a wall in the back of my house, which is about 5 or 6 feet off the ground, and it's not finished off. My land's there, as it should be built up higher, and I should have a fence. This has not been done with this project. Now we got this one here going. I'm kind of concerned about this whole project.
That wall was part of the project for this particular parcel.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. No, I'm asking the question. I'm unfamiliar with this particular one. So
Say it again now.
so that wall you're saying was
In the back of my
requiring of
property.
this project here?
Yeah.
Marco, do you know the history on that?
I'm not entirely familiar with the history of this project. I know it was redevelopment of within the riverfront area. I'm not familiar with that wall that he speaks of over behind his lot.
Which one was his lot?
His lot is right on the corner of Boutel Street and Exchange Street.
No.
Oh wait, excuse me.
No.
Further down.
No.
Further down. Okay,
Yes,
so
he's right
here.
Yes, that's mine.
And so it's like a stone wall essentially.
Yeah.
Right
Which
there. Yeah.
drops
Okay,
off
I
5
know
or
what
6
you're
feet,
talking about there.
which has not been finished since that project
Since
started.
this project started.
And my land also needs to be filled back into. So what's the procedure before anything else can go on here? That's what I'd like to know.
Well, this project still has an open order of conditions on it, so they don't have a certificate of compliance for this project.
Mhm.
So any work that he needs to do will have to be completed in order to receive the certificate of compliance.
Yeah, I mean, this is 10 years now.
Yeah, this is a long-standing project that's been
Yeah.
going on here. So that was certainly need to be
I mean,
addressed.
I'll bring that to the attention of my client. I would just point out that that would be subject to the prior order of conditions, and the area that he's pointing out is not within jurisdiction. But I will point that out to my client and bring it to his attention.
All of that's not within jurisdiction?
The area that he's pointing out, where the wall is supposed to be built on his lot, was over here, if I remember correctly.
No, that's the back.
Okay, well, that, it would be jurisdictional to the previous order of conditions.
Okay.
So, before you could release that order, he'd have to do the wall, and I will bring it to his attention.
And what's proposed for here on this side now that you get this lot?
Do you want to answer that, Matt? I mean, I can see what's on the plan. but-
Point out the question?
What's proposed here now? I see
These
foliage.
green dots are proposed trees.
Mhm.
You have duplex units.
Is there a fence there?
No, it looks like just vegetative area.
Would there be a fence there? That's what I'm like.
I can ask him if he'd be willing to put a fence up on that part of the development. It's a fair question. I'll speak to them both about the stone wall and about the fence.
Yeah, I mean, it's,
No, they're
it's been a
excellent
long
issues.
time, man. I'm kinda,
They're excellent
now that
issues.
you're gonna do this here, it's kinda really hurting.
They're excellent issues, and those I will raise them.
When was that wall started?
10 years ago?
10 years ago?
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't finished.
No.
Okay. Marco, that order's that old? Has it been extended?
It's been extended several times. It also fell under the Permit Extension Act.
We should really get a handle of what still remains to be done there, then, if it's that old.
Sure.
Any other
My
questions?
concerns.
Okay.
Any idea when this will happen, or will somebody notify me what's going on?
Well, the public hearing's open right now, so if the public hearing closes tonight, we'll vote and issue a decision on the project. The other thing that might happen is the public hearing could possibly be continued till next month as well. But you're welcome to stay and continue participating in this one.
It's still open on this project.
It's still open right now, yep. We haven't moved on to the next agenda item yet.
All right, thank you.
But I will bring that to my client's attention and confirm it in writing to Marco.
And in terms of other permits, again, this has been through planning board already, or?
I provided a letter from the planning board regarding,
Okay.
yeah, so they have an approval letter here for Heron Landings 2. This was issued January 6, 2017. There are, however, several conditions that need to be met prior to, I think it was the official release of the site plan approval, or before a building permit can be pulled from the city, essentially. So these will need to be addressed by the applicant here. I could provide this.
Mr. Chairman, on the planning board letter, point number 2 says the parking area in front of 96 Exchange will be, excuse me, relocated and accessed from Heron Way. Is that on this map? Because I don't see
I
it.
don't see it either, no, I had the same question.
That additional parking, I think it's 2 lots maybe, that's in front of the existing condominiums on Exchange?
That's correct, that's the first I've actually heard of that issue.
Yeah,
No,
that's in a
that's-
letter dated back to January 6,
Yeah.
2017.
That's correct, Paul. It's that building right on the corner of Heron Way.
Right, there's 2 driveways there.
Exactly.
They're
There's a
holding
couple
2 cars
parking
each.
spots that have been installed right on
Mhm.
Exchange Street, so
Right.
that's what that's referencing.
So where on this new plan is the space for those 4 cars? I don't see it.
That's a good question.
And I don't see where it's gonna go.
I don't see it. Wait,
It shows on the way bottom left, it shows an existing drive. I'm wondering, and then it says, restore existing drive to original landscape. Maybe that's what they're describing there.
Which page is that?
pink.
So on the, I'm on page 3, sheet 3, bottom left-hand corner. And it's very, very faint, but it shows that area in pink,
Mm-hmm.
hash marks there. And the text says, restore existing drive to original landscape.
Right. And then where would that drive then go?
So I think they have to remove it completely because it wasn't approved. So
So the people that are in those existing units, where are they gonna park?
there's an existing drive way in the bottom left-hand corner that comes around the building. So I think that's where they'll
Which would
have.
be in the rear of the building right
Correct,
now.
yes.
And that's down fairly close to the brook.
Yes, that is correct.
So if we go back to our original order of conditions, that wasn't proposed as a parking area.
I'd have to check, but could be, I believe the driveway that's shown in the lower left-hand corner was original to the order of conditions.
It was.
However, that parking space in front, right off of Exchange Street, that's in the pink hash marks there,
Yeah.
that wasn't the original. So that had been added. But I can confirm with the original order on that parcel.
Any other questions? I have a question, Matt. The stormwater management report talks about the infiltration condition being met with the infiltration basin. Some of these sheets label it detention basin. I think I see one sheet that labels it infiltration basin. The detail shows loam and seed and labels it a detention basin. That makes me believe that that's how it's designed, as a detention basin. So some engineering work needs to be done on the plans to just clear that up.
Yeah, that sounds like a housekeeping item that needs to be clarified. I will bring that to the engineer's attention.
Has DPW reviewed this, Marco?
They did the original review for the planning board, but the letter states that there's several conditions that have to be met, specifically referencing DPW in here. Let's see.
Now, I did see some soil logs in the stormwater report. Were those not within the detention basin, the infiltration basin area?
No, they were within the area.
Those were from test pit. It's right next to the detention basin there. It's that pink circle TP thing. That's where the soil logs were done.
Are they planning to put, my eyes aren't great, but it looks like they're putting trees on the detention basin itself.
I'm sorry.
It looks like there's trees being planted along the edge of it, like,
Yeah, right, so
usually they keep that clear of, for any kind of maintenance and anything. Usually they don't plant trees within the detention basin.
Yeah, I'm assuming that he's probably looking at planting it at the bottom of the grading and not in the basin itself, so he's gonna have to clarify that a little bit. I can speak to the engineer.
Okay, thanks. Can I ask one more question here? It looks like right at the detention basin is a dumpster pad. Is that where they're planning to put it? It looks like it's actually,
Is that a planned one or an existing one?
no, this is on sheet 3. Is it the same one we were just looking at? My eye.
Good eye, I can barely read that.
Oh, yeah,
Dump, it says.
Yeah,
Yeah, it does look like a dumpster pad, absolutely.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
doesn't seem like the most appropriate
place to put it.
spot.
Mr. Chairman, these units that are proposed is 16 in total, correct?
I see.
The new ones? The
I see 18.
18, I think.
Yeah.
18,
Yeah.
but the planning board letter says 60.
Oh, does it?
Mm-hmm.
So where did the extra 2 come from? The reason I'm asking, it's not a wetlands issue, but I'm looking at parking spaces, and I don't even know if there's sufficient parking for 18 units. Is it required 2 spaces per unit?
I believe so, yeah.
Well, there aren't 36 spaces on this map, especially if you're going to be moving one off of Exchange Street in. My concern would be that it could become a wetlands issue because people are going to want to go beyond those trees that are proposed and start parking down there in the open space area, which is right adjacent to the wetlands, and we would have an issue. I'm just looking at the worst case scenario. I just don't see the parking that's sufficient for 18 units, and the planning board letter says 16 units. So I don't know, where do those extra 2 units come from? Are you familiar at all, Matt, with? the
I mean,
way this
I'm
was
familiar
drawn
with
up?
the plans, but, I mean, some of those changes are new to me.
Right. It just looks like an awful lot of stuff crammed in a very small area, to me.
So I have a question back to what you originally talked about. Are you saying that there's a newly discovered wetland area right in here?
It wasn't that it was a newly discovered wetland area. What had happened was, if I may,
Right.
when I originally flagged this area before any of this was touched,
Yeah.
there was a mixed deciduous wetland, the line is right here.
Right.
Okay? So what had happened was, this area years ago basically had been cleared out, and when this development was being built, to accommodate some of the runoff coming in here, the developer dug a hole in the ground, kind of like a
Okay.
leaching basin, a homemade leaching basin. So what had happened was, he had basically become worried about people falling into the basin. So he decided to cover it a few years ago. So what happened was, in covering it, the water then had no place to go. So he filled it in with rock, not dirt. So what happened as a result, water is now trickling underground, surfacing out basically here, and then making its way down into here. And as a result of a few years' worth of inundation, even with the drought, it was still running. I went out there with Marco like last year. While the drought was in full force and it was still trickling. The wetland basically he wound up actually creating his own wetland out here.
Right.
Which then qualified and had to be reflagged. So I marked it.
Okay.
That's where that came from.
Okay. So what we see here is what?
That is correct.
Okay, all right, that's what I was wondering. So do we know, is this for 16 or 18? These plans are, it is for 18, right?
That is correct, yes.
Okay.
I just saw on page 3, there's a zoning summary box on the right-hand side above the graphic scale. And they reference 18 duplex units at 1.5 parking spaces per unit. It's not 2, it's 1.5 parking spaces.
I mean, based on the laundry list I have, obviously the hearing is going to be continued.
Yeah,
And I do have a laundry list in my head.
yeah.
My suggestion, which would benefit both my client and the commission, Marco, I did a copy of what was approved for the planning board as far as plans, and compare them to what we've got here, make sure they match. Sure.
The date on this particular set of plans is May 26, 2016, and the planning board letter is January 6, 2017, so. is
So
there
there's been
another-
revisions subsequently, yes.
So was this revised back down to 16 when the planning board issued this letter, and now it's back up to 8? I don't understand how this set of plans can predate this letter, and this shows 18, but the letter only shows 16.
Pat, maybe you can answer that question?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
Well, they're wondering why the planning board approval has 16 parking spaces and the plan shows 18.
16 units.
16 units.
I'm sorry, 16 units rather, parking spaces.
So, I don't know what the change was, other than, I know originally there was some question as to the layout originally in the design, and where the wetland was and was not, which might be the discrepancy in that plan. And I apologize for being a few minutes late, traffic was crazy. Yeah, I know at one point when the original plan was designed, there was a different delineation of the wetland. And I know that there was even a question as to size of units. So that might be, in fact, if there is a discrepancy, maybe the discrepancy. But that would be the only reason I would know. Kent's in Florida, so, yeah, that would be, the only thing I'm to understand was, I know originally that we tried to maximize the design of the lots on the property, and there was a change, and I think you may have been asked to go out and actually reflag the wetlands.
Yes, I did, I actually just narrated that change for them.
Okay. So that is the best answer I can give you, short of that it was, the footprints of the footprints, if in fact, I don't think a minor modification was done at the planning board level, so, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So that would be a clarification that clearly we need to visit, because it would require one of two things. Either one, we move with your recommendations for the plan as shown with a minor modification to the planning board, if these units fit properly and if you're comfortable with how they impact the wetland and the wetland delineation done by Matt. So that would be, I guess that would be my request to this board, that what you feel is how you best interpret this. Obviously, we would always try to maximize the number of units on a lot, as long as it works within the confines of any wetland issues and design criteria. So I've got to think at some point these 18 units were designed to fit. So my question would be has the wetlands redelineation changed any of this layout, to the best of your knowledge?
It shouldn't have, unless it changed the detention basin layout, which may have caused the shift. But it doesn't look like the layouts of the detention basin's changed much.
Yeah, and because that's the only thing I would think would have, originally this plan was always planned to be 18 units as far as I know. So the only thing that would have changed would have been delineation for the wetland. And if that moves something outside of a wetland area or an impacted area.
So I didn't hear the answer, because this letter still says 16, that's what he's wondering about, right?
Well, when I look at the planning board letter, it specifically refers to this plan, May 26, 2016, with updates through December 3rd, 2016. And it specifically says 8 duplex units, 16 units
That
total.
would be
But this
16.
plan has 9, 18 total. So where'd the extra building come from?
Oh, no, that's what I'm saying, I don't have that letter in front of me.
I don't actually, I have a different letter, but this letter is,
Yeah,
says
It's
it's
just
right.
quickly, I mean, what you just read, obviously, is pretty clear to me. 8 units is 8 units, 16 is 16. And unless, again, the only thing I would know to a change coming into this, a little late into this game, would be is if something had changed at the planning board level because of wetland delineation, that would have been the only thing I would have seen. But it clearly shows left constructing 8 residential duplexes, 16 total. The plan was prepared by CRX Trust by Jan Kramer. Yeah, I mean, English is English, it's pretty clear here. And they're not even really, what I'm not really clear of is which 8 units they're referring to. I would think, based on this layout, it would be those closest to the east side of this, which butted up to some of the wetland and the retention basin. But I guess I would tell you that the plan that is attached here is not clear to me. And it's clear the planning board's intent is, it says 16 units total here. Just trying to see if there's anything else here. The road must be arranged in Conservation Commission discuss potential wetland tonight. Instructions on process, soil testing, infiltration. I don't know if we can move us to a little further into the meeting, if that's even a possibility for, I can certainly make a few phone calls to, 1, the engineer, and 2, to the owner, to see if I can get some clarification for you tonight, if that helps. Other than that, I would say, the letter seems to have an intent for 16 units.
Sir, your name for the record? I don't think we got it.
Pardon me?
Your name for the record?
Oh,
please?
Pat Squarzelli, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
How are you? Yeah, I mean, the letter's clear. It's certainly stamped. The letter's clear on its face, I have no doubt about that. Looking at the plan, I can only imagine that the unit count would have been affected by wetland delineation or the retention basin. Like any developer, I'm sure the client was trying to maximize the number of units on the site, but at the end of the day, the planning board has ultimate jurisdiction as to you. But what I'm most concerned about is I can't tell you which 2 units, if they're in error, are the 2 units that are in error.
Just one question. Or it's more of a comment. On one of the conditions for the, was about the drainage, showing how the roof drainage drains into the detention basin. And it looks like the units that are like parallel to Boutel Street,
Yep.
they're not tied into the drainage system at all? Only the ones down below. You can take a look. It's just from the plan that I'm looking at here on it's sheet 7. See, there's a drainage, the drainage system.
Yep.
But see, none of these are tied in, or it's not referenced. I think that's what they were referencing in the.
Give me 1 second. So I would, based on what I'm seeing for grades here, I'm looking quickly, it would look like these would basically drain along the pavement to, I'm just looking for a catch basin or a collection system here.
I don't even see it.
See it coming off the building there, that way.
That That's just, I think,
Oh, okay.
that's the edge of the
From
parking.
from what I can see of this, it looks like it's intended to sheet drain, because I do not see a direct connection as some of those other units being tied directly in.
Well, I just didn't know if that was part of their comment, or, let me see where it was.
Which two are they, Larry?
Condition 12 just said additional piping or spot grades will be required to demonstrate how the roof runoff enters the drainage system. So I didn't know if that.
And I think that's probably the reference there probably is whether it's going to basically hit the pavement and sheet drain to the retention along the berm and any collection systems, or whether it was going to be piped. But my understanding is based on the grading, if you look, I don't know if you put a cut, but if you look, it looks like it's intended to
Just
to,
pitch down towards.
yeah, it looks like it's intended by the grades to pitch down and be caught up, within that area designated for retention,
Which ones are we talking, is he talking about?
the back units here. It looks like we're draining.
Yeah, they're pitched right to the detention basin.
Yeah,
Okay, there was a condition from the city, so.
yeah,
I'm just
from what I'm seeing here, it looks like it's basically going to run across the pavement to the retention pond. And then you've got, obviously, the grading and the retention pond to handle that as a runoff.
One other thing that I can just, one thing that I would like to see on here is, I see it in one spot, is just an indication of where snow storage is going to be.
Oh, okay.
Because it's a pretty tight site.
Designated spot for snow storage. At the far.
Yeah, I
at
think
the
that's from the
far
old
northerly-
project. Yeah,
That's the old.
The far
spot,
northerly.
yes.
yeah, but it
corner of the
doesn't seem
building.
like there's any designated snow storage here because, I mean, it's such limited parking that,
Oh, clearly.
I don't want to see it like getting
Right there.
either pushed in the detention basin or towards a wetland too much. So, if they could just revise that.
That's certainly a reasonable request, absolutely. And for the benefit of, obviously, the tenants as the developer, that clearly should be taken into consideration. The other question would be whether we would set a demarcation that over a certain snowfall, we just remove from the site. But, because otherwise, he's right, you would have to either push it to this end or storage is at the other end.
Yeah, and if possible, a lot of times we've just been asking for like some little signs to be put up,
Yep.
where snow storage is
Yep.
in areas that there shouldn't be snow storage. That way,
Everything looks like it's
Yeah, it's gonna go that way.
gonna
Right,
go
and that
into,
was,
it's gonna go into the sediment bay right here.
Yep.
These are 2 full bays.
yep. So I think I think we can defer to the planning board's letter, obviously, for minutes, and we just need a clarification of which 16 those represent. I think the second answer is really that I think it's intended to drain from the northerly side of the project down to the detention area. Snow storage is defined, it needs to be better defined because of the parking. Are there any other questions?
We had some additional comments before you arrived as well that Matt was discussing with us as well. One other thing too is when those revisions are made, if you could just make sure the engineer's stamping each plan sheet rather than just the cover sheet too.
Oh, okay. Were they not all stamped?
No.
Okay, I apologize for that.
And I have a question for you. You're the project proponent, is that correct, or?
No, actually, I've been brought on by the Xeris family to basically just kind of oversee and kind of move this along, work with
Okay.
Marco, get the permits done. get
These
the-
are brought in as a project manager.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I'm not the proponent, I'm actually gonna work as their project manager. on this.
Did you work on the abutting project?
I've
for this,
worked
or-
on, I've worked on other of their projects, and that's why I've worked with this engineer before, so I'm gonna be kind of brought to put all this in line and get you the answers you need.
Okay, no, I meant specifically though, were you involved with the abutting parcel on that redevelopment project? Because there was some questions about that here tonight, that's all.
No, I've had some overview as to that, but I was not directly involved.
Okay.
I've only been brought
Thank
on
you.
board in the last, actually, 2 weeks.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask another question? Could you comment on the, if you look at sheet 2, this pink area we were discussing before you came in, it's going to be a relocated parking area off of Exchange Street for the existing units. Are you familiar with that?
I
So
know
it's
there were
sheet-
some questions, just by way of erosion.
You can see it on sheet 2, you can also see it on sheet 3, partially on sheet 4, sheet 5. It's that pink area right on Exchange Street.
So, are we referring to? We're both on the same. Yeah, we're both on the.
This is coming out.
There's a
And
unit.
we were only going to guess that it's going in here, but we don't know.
I know that there was a unit, some unit parking, and there was a question about originally when this was approved, there was a parking spot, I think, on Exchange Street, which is now being
Based on the
moved off
planning board
of,
letter, they
Yeah.
want that out.
which was being moved off of Exchange Street.
So we will
So,
also locate that on the map? with
Yes.
the engineers?
Yep.
Yeah, so we know where it's going. We
absolutely.
just assume that's where it's
I'm
going.
gonna have to go, I have another meeting to
Okay,
get to.
that's fine, Matt,
I'll
thank
go
you.
over the other issues.
Thank you. Yeah, so I was aware.
Commissioners, you'll excuse me, I have to excuse myself, I have another meeting I have to get to.
Lucky you.
It's what I live for.
Nice.
There
Have
any
a great
other-
night, guys.
Thanks, you too.
Any other questions or comments from commission members? Would anyone else in the public like to speak on behalf of this public hearing? For a second time? And third and final time, would anyone else like to speak?
Actually, with the building plan, Commissioner, these plans, they coincide a lot. It doesn't sound like they're coinciding with each other, I don't know. I haven't seen the plans
The,
from the building commissioners. Isn't there a plan set up?
well, there would be a plan set on file with the planning board, and also the building inspector would get different plans for any project involved with the building. So in a perfect world, those three plan sets match, but it's very common for them to have some minor variances to them, so.
Thank you. That's it.
And again, would anybody like to speak on behalf of this public hearing? Second and third and final time. Okay, so I think you've heard that the commission has a number of concerns here
Mhm.
tonight. So it's up to you. Would you like to request a continuance for this public hearing?
I would.
Okay. And we will continue this until November 14th at 6 PM in this meeting room.
Okay, and just to recap, what we have is we have parking on Exchange, we have snow storage, we have just a clarification for sheet drainage, the retention area, and which 16 out of the magical lottery of the 18
Yeah,
were
which two are
talking
going?
about.
Right, we talked about some landscaping within the detention area and also the details on the infiltration
Okay, so
basin.
but Matt has that, right? He was working. Okay.
One last, can I ask one last thing? Do we have the stormwater calculations?
That was part of the submittal, so we have, I think you sent that to us.
Yeah. I got a hard copy here if anybody wants to.
Was this?
That's-
Also, just, there was the dumpster location, looks like it's right up, basically almost in the detention basin.
Right here?
Oh, okay.
So
It looks like it's at the top of the slope. Yeah, that should be moved out of that, clearly. Okay.
And there was the abutters concerns, but you weren't here for that.
Oh. But Matt was here for that, so he'll share that with me.
Okay, so once again, this will be continued until November 14th at 6 PM here in this meeting room.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Okay, so a regular meeting now. Do we have any certificates of compliance?
None,
Any extension permit requests?
none,
And communications?
none.
And minutes. We have minutes for September 12th and September 26th. Do we have a quorum for those?
We don't, I didn't send you the September 12th. I need to add some letters to it, but for both minutes, we can't vote on.
Okay, and new business, we have the Hill Street Conservation Land brush cutting.
Yep, last meeting, I provided you with an invoice from last November regarding DPW's work up there doing some brush cutting. For your recommendation, I've since visited the site, and it's still a meadow area. There's a lot of bittersweet growth in there. It's invasive.
Nice to see you.
But other than that, it doesn't have it has some new succession growth along the edges, some poplar species and such. But I don't. It's up to the commission. If you feel like it needs another cut, then that's fine. We could, in my opinion, I think we could push it a year and just reattack it next October-ish. But that's where I'm at. I think it was less than 1,000 to do the brush cutting.
Yeah, it can wait. It's just the first time they did it, we had waited too long,
Oh.
and so they used to do it. Well, last time there was an election, we got it done for free. So, but I guess I don't know if there's one coming up. Maybe.
Yeah, not with me apparently. I didn't use the right wordage for it, but no, they do it on like overtime.
Yeah.
So. But yeah, I think if we wait a year, maybe we can get it for free, by asking nicely.
Yeah, maybe they can put it on their list of things to do, and it's slow.
They enjoy the work. Last time they did it last year,
Yeah.
they commented on how they enjoyed it. So I would too, without making overtime on it. But other than that, yeah, that's what I have.
Any other discussion? Anyone want to make a motion on whether we should do the brush cutting this year?
I'll make a motion that we hold off until next year for the brush cutting on Hill Street.
Second. Okay. All in favor of waiting until next year? All right, now we have old business, 767 Willard Street.
This is still tabled. I was actually contacted by the mayor's office earlier, I think last week, and they're still trying to set up a meeting with the property owner and the mayor, just to discuss the issue over there. So I'll be included in that meeting when it comes to fruition. Until then, this is tabled.
All right, we have also under old business, Moosnock Brook retaining wall collapse.
Last meeting, the commission requested DPW be in attendance for tonight's meeting to discuss the emergency CERT over there and the overall, retaining wall. They were not able to attend tonight. The last week, I met with DPW, and they actually brought in a consultant, Woodard and Curran, to discuss I guess they're going to come up with like a 3-phase approach at this. The flood storage approach would be like phase 1. Phase 2 would be for just repairing that one section. And phase 3 would be repairing the whole section. So, DPW felt it was applicable to bring in a consultant and have them weigh in on it. Woodard and Curran said they'd probably get me something this week regarding the 3-phase approach, but I don't know for sure. That's what I have.
Do you know who the consultant is that they've retained?
Woodard and Curran.
Any other discussion?
Do they still have any projected time frame? Or?
They did not give me a projected time frame, other than having something in writing this coming week.
Well, it sounds like in past meetings, we were having a hard time getting them to handle the issue in-house. So perhaps that's why they've hired the consultant. I'm sure they've got a backlog with other projects and they're hoping the consultant can do it for them. It's good hearing they think they can get it done within a week, so hopefully by the next meeting we'll have something.
Yeah, I'll be in touch with, his name is Alan Benavides, he's representing it for Wood and Curran, so I'll be in touch with him regarding that.
Alan Benavides has an excellent reputation.
That he does.
Okay, on to enforcement. We have 375 Harvard Street. And is someone here to speak on behalf of that project tonight?
Hello, everybody. Jamie Rowan, Bingham, and we also have Kyle DeMassa here as well. So I'm just going to hand out a sketch. So that'll be the basis of our discussion. And we're going to try very, very hard to get this thing resolved one way or the other. So there's a little bit of history. Larry might be familiar with the history because he's been on the commission for quite some time, but were you here when they issued the original order of conditions?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so I'll rewind a little bit in that we had an order of conditions when they had a new client wanted to put an addition on the building. And we came in and showed the addition, showed additional parking, detention, retention, sewer connection, stormwater management. It was all done, it was all approved, no problem, no issues. They lost the tenant, so they didn't go forward with the project. Some of the work was done, but not all of the work was done. So, fast forward to today. Last year or the year before, we had a visit from DEP. I believe it was Joe Bellino. Mr. Bellino basically visited the site, asked I come down. I visited the site with him. Marco was there. We had a discussion. And most recently, Denise Childs showed up to the site, had a discussion with Kyle and with Scott Bigelow. Denise gave me a call as well. We do a lot of work with DEP, and I know Denise, so she gave me a call, told me what she expected. I told her the time frames we could do it, and I will be the point guy from now on. I will move this forward one way or the other. So I'll be the contact for the commission and DEP if DEP gets involved. So I prepared this plan, updated it this week to submit to you tonight. We actually did an as-built of the site back in 2016 when this whole thing started with DEP and Marco, the Leominster Conservation Commission. And we superimposed on that 2016 as-built plan, 2005 wetlands that were approved by the Leominster Conservation Commission that were used for the order of conditions that was issued for the expansion. And I also clouded on this plan the septic system, right? And you can see the cloud right here. There are actually two septic systems on the property. One is here that I know of. The other one is in this location where the septic tank is, right? In 1988, where the cloud is, they put that system in. Prior to 88, Perkins Engineering did a plan. And that system was located where the tank is. Some of the wetlands that you see near the septic system, I believe exist because of the system itself. The way the effluent is moving towards the rear of the property and the brook. Doesn't matter if that's created by the septic system or not, we're gonna treat it as a wetland, because that's what we did in 2005. And the reason I'm giving you this plan and coming to you tonight is I'm requesting some guidance from the commission to clean this site up. I need to know what you expect, how to handle this. I can certainly go out to the site, make a site walk, and come back to you in 2 weeks or whenever your next meeting is with a plan and highlight the things I think that should be taken care of. Happy to do that, right? And then come back before you and get that work approved, and we'll go forward and do it. Or we can do it together, or you can do it. It's entirely up to you. I have no idea how you want to handle this. So please, give me some input.
think I'd like to start this one just because I have some questions before we get to the input part of it,
Yep.
just for clarification.
Sure.
So the plan you gave us tonight, that cloud with the approximate septic area,
Yep.
that system was put in when roughly?
1988,
1988?
correct.
And when was the plan filed for the most recent notice of intent?
So I don't have that specific date for you. I'll get that for you, and, you know, I know you have a copy of your conditions, so, but I don't have that date. The most recent plan we did for work on the property is 2016, not this plan, but we did a sewer clearance plan, because at that time, the owner, the plan that was filed with the Conservation Commission showed a sewer connection, right, to connect the building to sewer, and in 2016, we filed that plan with the DPW to actually do the work. The work was not done. But that's the latest plan we did.
So the septic's still active.
Both systems are active. I'll show you on your plan. Right here is where this cloud here is a septic. This tank is also a septic system down here as well. This is the original system. This is the one that was put in 88. This original system was put in when the office building was put in. When the addition was put on, they put a second system in.
Do you know if we have a file that we're required to file in back then, most likely?
For 1988. I remember seeing a very old file.
Because even if some of that wetland is created, as you may have suggested, by any recharge from that septic system, I would expect the original wetlands would be within 100 feet of that system.
So Title V basically says a septic system can be located within 50 feet of a wetland. Leominster does not have a bylaw or ordinance going above and beyond Title V, so it would be allowed to be within 50. However, the design plans in 88 and prior to that by Perkins show no wetlands on the property whatsoever. And those plans were filed with the Board of Health. And I can get you those plans. I have copies of the septic designs. Not a problem. So my proposal to you this evening is as follows, I guess. And Brad, I'm happy to answer any questions you have, but what I'd like to do is clean up the site. And that's number one. And number two, I'd like to facilitate the abandonment of these septic systems, both of them, with the connection of a sewer line going to the main sewer. The owner, Carl DeMas, is willing to do that, and we already did the plans for it. So if that helps the commission make a decision, happy to do it.
Is that the only reason the stormwater management hasn't been constructed to date?
Correct.
Because the
Yeah,
septic system's right there?
Yeah, so, a couple of reasons, right? Number one, we didn't go forward with the addition to the building, so the stormwater management wasn't necessary. And if we did the addition and the stormwater management, we would absolutely have to connect to the sewer. There's no getting around that. We would have to do it at that point. And that's why it wasn't done.
Plan you gave us tonight, this shaded gray area,
That's the pavement.
that's pavement. So was that constructed after this plan was filed here?
So,
Because I see existing edge of pavement up here.
existing edge
Oh, I
pavement
see.
comes
Okay.
around the building right here, right? So that's what that does right there. And the
I see it,
pavement
I
comes
see it
down.
now,
Yep.
yeah, okay.
That was always a parking lot at ESPN. ESP lot, but ESPN. ESP lot. The use of the property today versus the use of the property back in 1986 is a huge improvement, huge. I can honestly tell you in '86, I was actually the first environmental inspector with the city of Leominster. I had Michael's job. And one of my first jobs was to investigate a complaint of a discharge from the lock company into the brook in the back. Bubbles and suds were floating all the way down to the Nashua River, and traced it all the way back to this place. So they were discharging all the filings and the soap and the washing fluid all the way into the brook at that time. Brad, the sole reason you don't see all those improvements done was the lack of intent at that time. That's what prompted the site plan and notice of intent and stormwater management. But the accessory construction, the sewer line, absolutely willing to do it. Absolutely willing to abandon the septic system, both of them, so that we can decommission those, connect to the sewer, and those aren't gonna be a source of any contamination whatsoever. There's no evidence of failure whatsoever with these systems. It's just that they were constructed so long ago, I have to believe they're influencing through the effluent, the type of growth you're seeing on the side slope and the breakout all the way to the brook.
Is that building on city water?
Yes.
Do you know the flow that's going through there at all? Or?
No, I don't. No. And just so that I could make that statement, not that I disbelieve Kyle at all, but I did call the DPW today to confirm that they're only being billed for city water, no sewer whatsoever.
All right, I'd just be curious to know what the flow is, so that you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, no.
kind of
So,
what-
so when it comes right down to it, the flow is the flow with respect to this connection of the sewer. We'd have to pay a fee based upon the flow, and then connect to the sewer. Yeah.
Any other discussion?
So I propose one or two things, and it's entirely up to the commission. I can come back with an edited plan based on my site inspection, telling you what I think should be done, right? And give you that plan and come back at the next meeting. Or we can do it cooperatively with you. Visit the site, do an inspection, come up with the list together, and then we'll have an edited plan at the next meeting as well. Either way, we want to connect to the sewer.
I know my take, because I haven't seen the site, is I would like to walk it with
Sure,
you. And
sure.
I think maybe we could come up with some ideas at that point.
Sure.
Does anybody else feel?
That's a good idea.
So can we work on scheduling a site walk?
I'll facilitate a site walk.
Maybe one of those emails?
Yeah,
Check
you
out
got it,
things.
you got it. Prior to November 14th.
Yeah, we can do it prior to the 14th or prior to the meeting after that. It's entirely up to you.
However you guys would like to handle it. Probably sooner better, and
Well, we want to do it before the snow flies, so let's just try to get it done, I would think.
you got it.
Anything else?
So this action is actually in response to your enforcement action, right? So
Right.
I want to see this through. If you have any questions regarding the enforcement action or anything in the order, call me, please. Call me directly, email me directly, and I'm going to be the point guy from this point forward.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you both for coming in.
Thank you very much, guys. Thank you. I'll look forward to that email and we'll walk the site. Have a good night.
What's the date on that other plan that you have there?
June 13th, 2016. It's the same,
No,
same,
it's the same as that?
right, the same
Yes,
one.
same date.
The same one that you submitted to the commission before. June 14th of 2016.
Let me just see that.
Okay, moving on. We have another enforcement item, 258 Exchange Street.
So I was been in touch with the property owner, and he has decided to hire a consultant to work with him to file a notice of intent for this project, to be compliant, or to determine whether or not there can be compliance with the riverfront standards. So I'm on standby for getting that notice of intent. I know Mr. Morrow is working on it, so that's who I've been in contact with regarding that.
Did he give you an estimated time?
Well, I outlined in the enforcement order, of course I don't have it in front of me right now, but I believe we're requesting prior to the November 14th meeting. So he felt confident that he'd be able to get it to me within the next coming week. So seeing as how we have a deadline of November 2nd, I will reiterate to him that I'll need it before November 2nd in order to be on for the November 14th agenda.
Where is this on Exchange? Is it?
It's right at the top of, so if you, what's that
Oh, right on
road?
Slack Brook?
Yeah, it's right on Slack Brook, yeah. Right across from that pump station.
Yeah, okay.
So if that sounds good with the commission, then I'll just reach out to them and see if I can get it before November 2nd.
Okay. Any other concerns on that? Right, so next item, we have an enforcement for 723 Willard Street.
I was in contact with KMP Law the other week, after I had tried reaching out to them a couple times before. They were looking for the minutes so they could reference in a letter to the property owner there. They wanted the minutes from June 25th, I believe. The issue with that is that the minutes only reference let's see, the time frame we were going to give them for removal of that basically encroachment, and that has since passed. I think we put July, some mid-July number in there. So seeing that we don't have minutes for them to reference in the letter, really I want to see what the commission has to say on whether or not we should put a time frame in tonight's meeting for when they should approach this, get the minutes approved for that, and submit that to KMP so they can write a letter stating our time frame on the removal. That's what I was kind of bouncing around in my head, but if you have any other approach that you want to take on this, I'm more than happy to hear it.
Seems to me if we could have I mean, if they could come in with a plan and have, sometime between now and the end of the year, and if we could have the plan to have it removed, after, after the heavy, well, there's no water there, right?
No.
So just, as soon as as soon as the ground thaws, it could be removed. Or even before that, right? I mean, it's a court, so they might even be able to do it while the ground's frozen to minimize the impact.
Yeah, I would think so.
Any other thoughts? Guess the one concern I have with giving them a time frame is just the amount of time that's already taken to get this far. I still have a copy of the letter that K&P sent back on May 22nd, 2015. And the first paragraph of that says, "Please be advised that this firm serves as city solicitor for the city of Leominster. This letter is to provide you with notice that the city of Leominster is directing you that your basketball tennis court built by you on a parcel of land owned by the city of Leominster adjacent to your property located at 723 Willard Street must be removed." and we're more than 2 years from that date and it's still in place. So, I guess if it's gonna be taken any more seriously, then it should probably just simply state immediate removal, in my opinion. There's no reason it can't be done this time of year, to demolish that and restore it.
Well, why did they need a time frame from the minutes for that particular meeting?
Because that's what we had discussed at the meeting, was that we wanted it out by July such and such. So that's what they wanted to reference in the minutes, but as Brad is stating it, that we can just say immediate removal,
Right.
and that would cover everything.
Yeah.
So that's a more direct approach at it, it seems to me.
Are they gonna submit a plan for removal, or?
I don't think it would warrant the need for a plan, I guess. I
Okay.
mean, it's not
Just
near
rip it up and
resource
get rid of
areas.
it and
Take it away,
replant.
right? Restore it, you
Rip
put
it and
it in
restore.
a grave and
You take it away and you seed it, you loam and seed it if you need to.
Right.
Any other thoughts?
Was there anything that, is there any oversight as far as making sure it's done in an acceptable manner? I mean, I know it sounds simple, rip it
Right.
up, get rid of it and reseed, but
Well, I would hope to be included in the overall removal of the facility, so I can just know that they're not pushing over the edge of the hillside there, you know? So,
I don't hold a whole lot of faith in someone that's waited 2 years to get it done. you
Yeah,
know what I
true
mean?
that,
That's
so-
my, you know,
right.
There's possibly electrical wiring, or, so that might have to be dug up.
There is electrical on site.
And is it
I believe it's all underground.
underground? I mean,
this is a tricky one, because I agree that, you know, immediate is good, but if you don't set a definitive, you know, like when does immediately, you know, end, you know, like when is, there's no hard stop time, like, it should be replaced immediately, you know, I don't, I mean, I'm just thinking legally, I mean, immediately, I mean, where's that, you know?
a date, like as of,
Well, here's my concern too with setting dates. We've been trying to get a newly drafted letter for how long now?
Yeah.
So putting dates in there,
It's making it worse.
this is the first indication we finally gotten that they're willing to do something though, right? I mean, like, most of
I
the
don't-
communication we have gotten has not even been,
no, I
Correct.
don't think we've gotten any information from the abutting property owner in terms of intent. I don't think we've heard from them.
Not
No.
in some time. I know, I don't know, maybe a year and a half ago they were in.
They were in,
Um,
With
The rest of the new members probably aren't familiar with that, but the property owner did come in with a representative, I think it was from Hannigan Engineering.
It was. Still have
And I forget what they were proposing, but they were trying to propose a,
They were
kind of like a survey plan of,
They were proposing to meet with city council. They wanted to, A, lease the property, B, buy the property, or C, they wanted a 20-year extension in order to take the materials out.
that's it, yeah.
So it was buy, lease, or extend for 20 years. That was my memory of the meeting.
Yeah, you're correct. on
And then we
this.
never heard anything back.
And it just stopped from there.
Yeah.
And I don't think it was, the commission was willing to go that route, I was gauging at the time.
Well, I think from what we've learned with the driveway issue on that same title, is that's a pretty insurmountable hurdle there, to be able to do that.
It has to go before the Supreme Court, so, you know, it's pretty lengthy procedure.
Not the Supreme Court, but it has to go through the state legislature.
State
At some
legislature.
point, that's part of it. Would have to go through the Conservation Commission, City Council, and state legislature.
What if we ask for immediate removal, but we also ask that a revegetation take place in the spring of 2018? That way we're giving a removal date of immediately, but we're also, you know, like, obviously, the thing has to be gone by the springtime for the revegetation to take place.
So one way we could word it is for immediate removal, then restoration during the first available growing season. So if that letter goes out tomorrow, they can restore it now, this growing season.
Yeah.
The letter takes a little while, hopefully it doesn't, because Marco's gonna call every day now, I think, right, Marco?
Well, I think he's gonna want the minutes. This is gonna be another thing. He's gonna want the minutes from this meeting if we make a motion. So he can reference that in his letter to the property owner. That's how he wanted to approach it this last time.
But he wouldn't be able to get these minutes until the next
Yeah,
Next meeting.
I don't understand why he needs the minutes to do
Yeah,
that.
I don't either.
I mean, this
There is
video, the video of this meeting is gonna be available in, what, 2 days? So,
That's
if
what
anything, they
I
can
was at
reference
last
that.
time.
And there's
Yeah,
also
video.
records of many meetings where this has been discussed.
Right.
So my other question, if we say immediately, when do we go out there and see it not done and say, we said immediately? Like, because I remember, you know, what you were saying, immediate could mean they started, but 6 months from now, they haven't completed it. Do you know what I mean? Or a year from now, they may not
Well,
have
they have
completed
to-
it. I mean,
Well,
where
that's-
are we as
done
far
it.
as?
That's what we
Spring.
just discussed, that it would start immediately, and that the area would be restored during the first available growing season. So that means everything's gotta be out of there for that area to be restored.
Okay, so not necessarily a date, but a
Right.
reasonable
Again,
amount of time.
my concern with setting a date was just to be able to get this letter out.
No, I
It's been challenging.
understand.
But I guess to answer your question, in the spring, if it's,
Well, he was saying you could start it immediately and you could
Yeah.
finish immediately, but really they could say, well, it
Right.
wasn't a growing season, we gotta wait
but I
till
think by
spring.
then, if
you know.
there's nothing, then we'd have to continue. Right.
I'm sorry, what was your question?
So like because he was asking when would we go out and say, you know, it's done or it's not done? It would be in the spring.
Part of that depends on when the letter goes out. So,
You
if,
will, yeah.
right, if the letter goes out tomorrow, then they could absolutely have that area removed, restored this fall. If it takes time for some reason and we get a foot of snow 2 weeks from now, and that might make it challenging. And then, yes, to your point, you'd be looking for the work to be done in the spring, completed by the spring growing season. Yeah.
One thing on the growing season, I'm thinking, like, as I think about it, it should be like the growing season, the next growing season, in reference to like the date of the letter. Not, they should be independent of the removal, because they could say, well, if we don't remove it until the summertime of next year, then we have until, you know what I mean? Like, something to say the growing season. Like, they should be two independent things, like, we want the revegetation to take place of the next growing season, but not the next growing season after it's removed.
Right,
Like
so,
the
It could be
actual
the next
date,
growing
yeah.
season.
so the letter would state immediate removal and all work to be completed and restored by the next available growing season.
Mhm.
I think that covers it.
Okay.
Yeah, that would cover it.
Alright. Well, I'm just thinking, I could interpret that as saying, well, it's the
Right.
next available
Right,
growing
that's a great
season
idea.
after it's removed.
Yeah,
Right.
So if I don't remove it until a year from now, then
right, like I think you'd have to say
The-
like the 2018.
the growing season would be the growing season after it's removed.
Just say immediate removal in spring of 2018.
Yeah.
That would,
If we want to give them till the spring, then we could,
I'm just seeing that as like, it's almost like the growing, that could be interpreted as saying,
Yeah.
the growing season after it's removed, not the growing season as,
And
per
that-
this, the date of this letter being issued.
right.
That's kind of what I was bringing up as a concern, is if you give them a gray area, it sounds like they're gonna take it. You know what I mean? So, though I understand why you're saying let's not give them a date, because it's just more, you know, giving them a gray area, I think is worse, you know? But like you said, if it's immediate removal, and the planting to be done, I don't know. Like you said, if it's based on the date of the letter, but we'd have to word it that way. You know what I mean? Because the way you said it, it would be the removal,
My gut tells me we've lost this year.
yeah,
It's just.
Yeah.
yeah, and that's what I'm
So
thinking
why
too.
don't we set a date in the spring that everything needs to be completed by, period?
Okay.
I mean, optimistically, I'd like to see it done this year, but I don't think it's gonna happen.
Right. But at least this gives us something to say, this is when we said to do it, you know, instead of, well, you said next season, and it's not really next season yet, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
So,
And this request is from KMP
Yeah, that's correct.
on behalf of the city or
On behalf of, yeah,
the
sure.
abutter?
No, on behalf of the city and Conservation Commission.
So we still have no indication that.
oh,
the
this wasn't
abutter
from the,
is-
okay. All this time, I thought this was from them, from the,
So what we're doing tonight is setting a time frame and wordage for KMP to write a letter, who is the city solicitor, to write a letter to the encroaching
Party.
oh,
party. Um,
I've been lost the whole time.
It's all right, me too. So, I guess, just to reiterate this, I guess we could say immediate removal and all work to revegetate / restore the area must be completed during the first available growing season in the spring of 2018.
Well, let's set a date.
Okay,
I
set a
think, I mean, typically you can grade, seed, get all that done by May 15th.
Yeah, I like that one.
May 15th?
Does that sound reasonable?
Mhm. Can you read it one more time, Marco?
Yep. Immediate removal of the encroachment and all work to revegetate and restore the area must be completed by the spring of, by May 15th
2018.
of 2018.
Thank you.
I have a question. Will the attorney's office provide a plot plan with that letter so that it's determined exactly what has to be removed?
I have a plot plan on file in the building department regarding the overall, site.
Just so that it all comes out rather than just some of it,
Yeah,
in case there's a question about where the line is.
Right.
I could provide that plot plan to KMP, but I don't know how to really.
There is a certified foundation plan, if I'm correct, right?
That's correct.
For the house
Yep.
on file with the building inspector. I think I've seen a copy of it. We can simply, when any commission member or Marco's doing an inspection out there, simply tape off the house, get a distance to that rear property line. I don't think that would be
Yeah.
too difficult.
I'm just thinking so there's not a question as to, well, does this court have to all come out or can some of it stay? You know, that
Or
plays out.
conditions today.
I think 100% of it was on,
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
From the looks of
Right,
it.
right.
There was quite a bit over the line.
yeah, I mean, there wasn't, and there was nothing in between except for like grass or
Mm.
from the photo, so. I mean, it's been a while, but the entire structure is clearly on conservation land.
Definitely.
So do we want to make a motion for this?
I make a motion that our agent contact Coleman and Page to issue a letter for the immediate removal of the encroachment with a revegetation schedule to take place and to be completed prior to May 15th of 2018.
I'll second that motion.
Those in favor?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Boy, the enforcement ones keep adding up.
Yeah.
We have another enforcement item for 1,145 Central Street, lot paving within the riverfront area.
So, this is a little postage stamp lot essentially on the corner of Grant and Central. This gentleman had, the property owner, he recently acquired this property, he purchased it, and paved the entire lot next to a perennial stream. A significant portion of that lot was a compacted gravel surface, which is essentially impervious. DPW and I had discussed overall how much square footage wise, and I didn't write down a number, of course, but it was in the realm of 5,000 square feet of existing impervious that had been paved over. Now, this with all this new paving, there's an additional 1,000 square feet of impervious that was added to the property, all within riverfront area. And it's specifically on the southern face of that building. So I issued an enforcement order to the property owner on October 5th. And I had said in the enforcement order that a notice of intent has to be completed and submitted to the issuing authority by November 1st of 2017 for the following: that all site grading and paving conducted within the riverfront area at 1145 Central Street, and identify what will need to be done to comply with the Wetland Protection Act, riverfront standards, and stormwater regulations. So yeah, that's what we got going on there. If there's any questions?
Did you hear back from them at all?
He was, yes, when I issued this by hand
Oh,
to
okay.
him, and so, you know, of course, I get the, yep, absolutely, I'll take care of it, and get you this notice of intent.
Maybe we could ask him for the name of his engineer so that we can.
He referenced Whitnam and Bingham at the time.
Oh, is this something we have to vote on tonight, or is it already?
Well, I already have the enforcement order, so it's just a
Okay.
matter of you guys ratifying it tonight. And I'll reissue it to the violator.
We should vote on it, yes. Any other discussion on this?
No.
We have a motion.
We ratified it, right? No, right? Is it all right? Make a motion to ratify the enforcement order for 1145 Central Street, lot paving within the riverfront area.
I'll second that, Mr. Chairman.
All those in favor? And our last enforcement item for 35 Berkshire Drive.
This one happened today. I got a call around 2 o'clock. I went out to the site, and the property owner has had multiple dump truck loads worth of fill placed in a wetland area. So it's, no doubt about it, there's a stream. SGIS shows that there's a wetland area there. Just from my observations, there's jewelweed and sensitive fern in the immediate vicinity of that fill. So I requested that they install erosion controls immediately at the toe slope involving silt fence and straw wattles to prevent any more siltation into that wetland area, especially with all the rains coming. S&M Farms is apparently going to do the work tomorrow to stabilize the area. I'm going to use silt fence and a 12-inch roll of straw wall. It's approximately 70 feet in length of soil added within that wetland.
And that's gonna be installed at the limit of the fill,
Correct.
but some of that's in the wetland.
Correct.
Okay.
I could certainly alter that request. But yeah, it's all within the wetland area. There's direct alteration of this wetland.
It's all done by hand, right?
I can certainly request that.
Anything in the wetland's gotta be done by hand, we don't want to do any further damage.
Right. So my initial thought is that because of the nature of this, I have this enforcement order here, and I essentially said that the area needs to be restored. Resource area alterations resulting from said activities shall be corrected, and the resource areas returned to their original conditions.
Has that gone out yet?
It has not.
Okay. The only thing I would add to that, I would like to see added to that, would be that the work is overseen by a wetland scientist.
Okay.
So that we do know that it's restored to its original condition. I don't think that onus should be on you to supervise that project.
Thank you.
So
Appreciate that.
we'll, I would suggest that we add that in there and that scientist report back to us that it's been restored.
Okay.
We should probably set a timetable on this. I mean, we don't want that sitting there into the winter. Right, it's gonna be really tough to remove it later on without doing some serious damage.
What is the fill material itself?
Just standard soil with some rocks in it, really
Yeah.
crushed up brick.
Are they doing construction?
He wasn't doing construction, but he told me that he spoke to some people doing site work, and they had extra fill, so he took it.
It's crushed up brick,
Well, it's not all crushed up brick, but there
but
is
some of it is. But it's not
It's-
coming from that site, it's coming from off-site.
It's coming from off-site, that's
Okay,
correct.
they can't be transporting that from off-site.
Oh, sure.
So, I want to mention that to the Board of Health too.
Okay.
If they need to do their own litter.
One thing with that too, if we could, along with just the wetland scientists, if we can get some sort of, like a plan. Usually they come in with a plan and then they monitor it for, like a couple of growing seasons to make sure they haven't introduced invasives and everything's looking good. It's, we don't want like the final, he says, okay, everything's planted, walk away, and then,
Right.
usually it gets monitored for a little bit, for, like a couple, usually it gets monitored for like 2 growing seasons, just to make sure everything's, it depends on the extent of the damage though, too. In the past, we've just asked for, a planning schedule, and, they just follow up, with 2 letters. I mean, I don't know how people feel about that. I don't know if that's a lot to ask, but.
He is willing to work with us, this gentleman, so,
Our next meeting is the 14th.
yeah.
What usually happens with this type of a scenario too is you actually have to get in there and start digging before you can even find where the resource area was. Unless we have any record plans, but I'm guessing we don't, right? So my thought is for them to get going on that. Then we can look and see how the work's progressing. And then if we need a plan at that point, we can ask for it at our next meeting on the 14th. I'm just thinking that the cost to do all the restoration work can skyrocket the more we ask for them. So why don't we let them get started, and if they're cooperative on that aspect of it, we'll take a look at it, and on the 14th, if we think we need an actual survey plan that shows everything, maybe we can discuss it then.
That's a fairly large area between Berkshire Drive and over to Abbott Ave.
Right.
Do we know the lot size of the owner?
The overall lot size of the
Does he
property?
own that entire area? or-
Yeah, he owns that entire area, that is
He
his
does.
parcel land.
So we're not dealing with some other abutter that's gonna be...
No, there's no encroachment. It's all on his parcel.
And that house is set back off of Berkshire Drive, quite a distance off the...
Actually, the fill occurred directly on Berkshire Drive.
Right on the drive.
Right.
Any other thoughts? So again, I'm thinking we have them immediately obtain a wetlands consultant, immediately begin the removal of any fill from the wetland area. And Marco can help monitor that between now and our next meeting.
Sure.
Let us know who's working with the property owner on that as well if you can. And we'll have the opportunity to go out there and take a look at it between now and the next meeting as well. And then they can give us a restoration plan. That plan doesn't have to be an actual survey plan. It can be a narrative scope with a pretty detailed sketch if need be. If we have any concerns about where that area is, or we're in some type of a disagreement with the property owner and consultant, maybe at that time I'm thinking we ask for a more definitive survey plan to tie things down. But I mean, it could be an honest mistake, and I know how expensive this can get. I just want to see it restored personally.
Should we ask someone to come in, the property owner to come in?
I think we would have them come in for an update on the 14th. Yeah. And we should set probably a time limit for all the work to be done too, which don't want to go beyond November 30th. If everyone thinks that's okay.
Sooner the better.
So this restoration plan, do we want to set a timeline on that, or?
I think the timeline for that should probably be our next meeting.
Okay. Thank you. But just referencing, taking all the soil out, that should be conducted immediately, essentially.
Starting to.
With the guidance of a wetland scientist, to make sure they're not taking too much. Or
With
too
guidance of
little.
well inside. Okay.
I wouldn't want the property owner doing that without a wetland scientist involved. Just
We need-
to-
We were talking about the fill, is that something we need to like, make sure someone else knows about, like the Board of Health? I mean,
I'll,
should a copy go to them of this?
I'll inform Mr. Knuth of the Board of Health, and I could provide him with a copy of the enforcement order just for his record.
Yeah, just mention to him that the ABC material, well, the brick in this case, it falls under the ABC regs under solid waste.
Yeah, I didn't see any large diameter, it was all below, what's 4 inches or so.
Right, it can be crushed on site if it's coming from the site. If it's
Okay.
being imported, it can't be.
It can't be.
Yep.
Okay, so that's gonna be.
And also, if you look under the wetlands regs and DEP's typical standard condition, no fill used in the buffer zone, it's one of their standard conditions, can contain any of that material. So it can't be in the buffer zone, can't be in the wetland area in this case, would all have to be removed. The only reason I mentioned the Board of Health is, again, it's being imported. Sometimes it helps to have multiple letters coming from different departments in case the property owner's not cooperative.
Okay, that makes sense.
We need a motion to ratify this.
Yes, and I think we also have to add the items we discussed. So, someone wants to make a motion?
I can read it back if you want.
can you read it back, or?
Saying a narrative plan for restoration. I have November 14th, by November 14th, 2017. Owner shall hire wetland scientists to oversee soil removal and restoration of the area. Of the wetland area.
We just say the jurisdictional area because there's the buffer zone impact too.
Okay. Is there anything else we wanted to add to that? I mean, other than contacting Board of Health.
They would come to our, excuse me, the deadline for that would be November 14th. They'd come give us an update at that meeting.
Okay.
And then we mentioned that all the work would have to be done by November 30th.
Thank you.
Now, would someone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to ratify the enforcement order. Do you want me to read it? That the fill needs to be removed with the assistance of a wetland scientist. The restoration area, the resource area or jurisdictional area has to be restored to its original condition. November 4th, the applicant needs to come in by to our November 14th meeting, and all of this work needs to be completed by November 30th.
And that's for 35 Berkshire Drive.
For 35 Berkshire Drive wetland fill.
I have one more question on that. Do we know if there's a floodplain at all there?
That's a good question. I don't think there is,
Okay.
but I'll double check that.
I would just make sure that all resource areas are noted on the enforcement order.
All resources.
Okay. So if they're in the floodplain, just make that as a note as well.
Okay.
There's a second, please.
I'll second that, Mr. Chairman.
All in favor? Okay, we're out of enforcement.
Thank you.
Now we have emergency certifications.
None.
Project update requests.
I have nothing to add.
Other than what we talked about earlier this evening, I guess I just want to reiterate that the 96 Exchange Street project, if we can probably put on our next agenda what work is outstanding on that abutting parcel under that existing order of conditions. We can get an update at our next meeting on that. Ten years seems like a long time to
Yeah, it
do it
does.
well.
Things move slow on that project, it is.
But all the buildings are complete and everything else is done on that?
All the site stabilization has been complete. And all the buildings have been constructed.
Yeah, if you could just please look into that, we'll put it on the next agenda and
I'll see what I can find out for you guys.
budget.
I don't have an update at this time.
Agents report
I have nothing to report.
and chairman's report. Our chairman is not here this evening. So our next meeting will be November 14th, 2017, with a filing deadline of November 2nd, 2017. Want to make a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second
I declare this meeting adjourned.